Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. I want to talk to you about Boris Johnson as well, but let's start, because as a former advisor to Gordon Brown when he was Prime Minister, just want to ask you, first of all, about the inflation figures. I mean, you know, finally some good news properly going down, but we are still way behind all those fantastically brilliant forecasters everywhere, Office of Budget Responsibility, you name it, and the Bank of England telling us that it was all going to be a bit of a blip on inflation. It is still sky high, isn't it?
It is. It's high, and it's higher than in other European countries, which suggests there's something that's going on in the UK economy, which isn't just a product of global events, which are faced obviously by other European countries whose inflation rate is a bit lower than ours. I think it's a rather good thing that the Bank of England has been forced to admit that its models are not very good. Quite a lot of economists have been saying this for some time, that the Bank of England's models, as indeed the Treasury model, don't really understand the economy very well, and they are fine in normal circumstances when things don't change very much. But as soon as you get a shock, the models which are reflective of past events don't now understand the economy very well, because the shocks are new events. And so this is quite a useful little corrective process where the Bank of England admits that it's not as clever as it thought it was.
Yes.
But we all need then to understand that they will get it wrong sometimes.
Well, we know that the one thing you can...
This is a good thing.
Michael, the one thing you can guarantee with all forecasts, and any sensible forecaster would admit this, they will always be wrong. The question is how wrong, and whether they're wrong in the same direction all the time. I mean, a vague sort of, it's going to be around 10% as opposed to around 5% is useful. But when they're sort of consistently very, very wrong, all, you know, again and again and again, you start wondering why that's such an issue. Why do you believe our inflation rate is higher than other EU countries? Well, other European countries?
I think the one of the reasons is that we have a very, very tight labour market. As we know, firms in almost all sectors are really struggling to find workers at the moment, which has meant that wages are rising at a reasonable rate. I mean, not enough to keep pace with inflation, so it doesn't feel very good for workers, because they're still getting effectively real terms pay cuts if you take inflation into account. But our labour market is very tight.
I mean, that's kind of saying labour market is very tight is code for we have much lower unemployment than most European countries, don't we?
We have lower unemployment, and we have many more workers who are not working. So we've had very high numbers, 2.5 million at the moment, of people who are of working age who are not looking for work and therefore are not in the labour market. There are a whole variety of reasons for that: illness, COVID illness, and
waiting lists, but I mean also just the ability of people to make those claims. But there's also another key factor is also we use a lot more gas in our heating of our homes. A huge amount of our gas use is consumption is heat. Basically, people have gas central heating. A wonderful thing. One of the greatest joys and loves of my life is my gas central heating, which the government wants to take away from me. And therefore
Hang on. You can't have both of those sentences together, Julia. You can't say that the reason we've got higher inflation is because we use a lot of gas and then complain at the fact that we're trying to move away from gas towards renewables, because renewables are cheaper.
No.
This is a crisis.
Oh,
now,
Michael, we don't have a spare 2 hours.
I might as well say my piece, because otherwise...
No, Michael, no, because that's not what I've asked you.
You don't need a guest if it's just you. So let me make the point.
Michael, you haven't stopped talking.
The reason we have high energy prices is because we are so dependent on fossil fuels, which are subject to these very high volatile shocks. Renewables are not volatile because they are continuous. So a shift away from gas.
Michael, bless you, but I don't think you should. I don't think you should go into to energy analysis as a
specialism.
Well, goodness me, I wouldn't hire you as a specialist on that.
Well,
the whole point,
Julia,
Michael, darling, you haven't stopped talking. Can I? Michael, I don't want. This is not.
Well, but let's
Michael,
talk about this.
Michael, it's 7:29. We've got a lot of stories to get through. I don't want to have a conversation about the sodding.
But you raised the point about gas.
No, you said we've got much higher rate of inflation in other EU countries. I was looking up why have we got higher inflation in other countries, and all of the analysts say the main reason is we are very reliant on gas for heating our homes. That's why I stated it. I'd like to point out though, when the wind doesn't blow and when the sun doesn't shine, it's not very reliable, and you have to have backups, either nuclear or any other form, and we don't have those. Oh my God!
Do you think National Grid are stupid and don't understand this?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think that all the energy analysts around the world who are now understanding the energy system don't understand that renewables are intermittent and we haven't got
You just said they were reliable. The whole point is they're not reliable and you need the backup, which is why they're not cheap, because you have to allow for the cost of the backup as well.
That's absolutely true. And
so they're not cheap.
Backup. So all around the world, renewables are being installed.
Yes, madly, crazily, stupidly, insanely, and I would say immorally as well.
And the backups are being installed. Julia,
but they cost twice as much because you don't need a backup for gas or nuclear, do you? Because they're reliable forms of energy. So when we relied on gas and nuclear, we didn't have worries about blackouts because the wind hadn't blown.
We have reliable gas, which is at very high prices. So, come on, you can't have it both ways. You can't say gas is wonderful.
You're having it both ways, Michael. You're claiming it's cheap when it's not cheap because you have to have the backup of gas.
It's cheap even with the backup. Because gas prices are very volatile. We've got a problem of high inflation, incredibly high energy prices, which are causing tremendous problems.
Can we get on to any other topics?
Because we are so dependent on gas, which is a fuel that is subject to global shocks. And so its price is high. Renewables are not subject to global shocks. So even when you include the backup, they are cheaper.
But you're still...
And that's why they're being installed.
But the backup is still going to include gas because you can't actually do everything with electricity. Because fossil fuels are still 80% of our energy needs. You're an energy analyst, so you know that.
The contribution of gas
fossil fuels are 80% of our energy needs.
Yeah, but we're trying to reduce that.
Yes,
and reducing that will improve energy prices. That's why this is happening everywhere, Julia.
I know it's because everywhere it's happening in all the countries which are insanely pursuing a net zero policy. That's why it's happening everywhere.
But why is it insane? Why do you think? Do you think everybody is stupid? Do you think the German government, the French government, the Swedish government, the American government,
the German company is
government,
definitely stupid.
Do you think they're all stupid
Yes.
and they just don't understand?
Yes. I think they're all signed up to an insane virtue signalling. They go to the same dinner parties you go to, and they think they're wonderful people, and it's all insane.
This is an extraordinary claim.
It's not an extraordinary claim. It's what most people in this country think.
Making money out of the energy system don't understand what they're doing, and you, who I'm afraid are not an energy specialist, you do.
No, but I seem to understand some basic laws of supply and demand much better than an awful lot of other people.
But that's a very interesting claim, isn't it? That all the people who are specialists in this area,
people who are
companies making
not all the people who are specialists in this area. Net zero is a insane and morally repugnant policy.
You're asserting that,
yes,
but you're not providing any evidence, whereas I'm providing
I am, because people are going to get poorer, their energy costs are going to get higher, and energy is going to be unreliable, and you can't have a successful economy, and you can't push forward people's quality of lives doing that.
All the more successful economies are doing this.
Actually, Germany was a successful economy, and still they started pushing that, and now they're not a successful economy. Actually, maybe there's something in there.
A lot more successful than us.
Not right now. They're not. Not right now. They're spending a huge percentage of their GDP on importing energy.
They have good public services. A good rate of employment.
They pay a massive rate of tax. Oh, Michael. Right. Can I ask you one other question before I go, since we're already well over time? And that is about Boris Johnson. You were an advisor to Gordon Brown. He was Chancellor and Prime Minister. Boris Johnson accused the Cabinet Office of politically motivated stitch-up after information from his prime ministerial diary was handed to the police. It basically claims that he has broken the law over more COVID breaches during lockdown periods. It checkers, specifically family and friends being invited. Were the Cabinet Office lawyers, were they right to hand those documents over to the police?
They had to. There's a ministerial code and a civil service code which says that if Cabinet Office or any civil servants uncover potential illegality, they have to report it. And that's right. We don't want civil servants covering up illegal acts or potentially illegal acts by ministers. We wouldn't expect that. So I'm afraid that is right. I don't think they had any choice.
Is it politically motivated?
The police will now work out whether or not it was illegal. But if there is a suspicion in the civil service that what they're seeing across their desks is illegal behaviour, they have to report it to the police. I think it's as simple as that.
OK, right. We'll speak again. We'll have a longer time to have a conversation about the insane and immoral energy policies pursued by Western governments at the current time. You know what I am an expert in? An expert in democratic values, and there ain't any behind that. Michael Jacobs, it's a pleasure to have you on.